Tell me when you're ready. We good? Okay. Welcome, everyone. Good evening and welcome to this meeting, regular meeting of the South Bend Community School Corporation Board of School Trustees. This Monday, October 17th, 2022. We had a closed session at 4:30 p.m. We're calling this meeting to order at 5:30, and I will ask Ms. Owens to do the roll call, please.
Ms. Stephanie Ball,
Present.
Dr. Stuart Green,
Here.
Ms. Aletha Jones,
Here.
Ms. Jeanette McCullough,
Here.
Dr. Ruth Moran,
Here.
Ms. Leslie Wesley,
Present.
Mr. John Anella.
Here. Thank you. Now we're on to adoption of our agenda. It is recommended the Board of School Trustees adopt the agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt? Dr. Green,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Wesley. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, roll please.
Ms. Ball,
Aye.
Dr. Green,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McCullough,
Nay.
Dr. Moran,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Anella.
Aye. Okay, we've adopted our agenda and now we are on to superintendent recognitions and announcements. We'll turn it over to you, Dr. Cummings.
Thank you, President Ella. First, we want to start with our moment of silence. We learned earlier this week that Lawrence Szymanski passed away. Lawrence was a lifelong resident of South Bend. He worked in education, teaching woodworking and math for 44 years, primarily at John Adams. I've heard great things this week from both Mr. Seitz and Coach Frank at the football coach at Adams, how Lawrence would stop and he would check in every few weeks. I know lots of people are going to miss him and we're grateful for his service to the district. And so we want to start out this evening with a moment of silence. So please join me. Thank you, everyone. And now I'd like to ask Secretary of the Board, Ms. Stephanie Ball, if she would read the district's Red Ribbon Week proclamation. Secretary Ball.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings. Red Ribbon Week proclamation, October 17th through 21st, 2022. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse affects individuals, families, and communities across the nation, and whereas it is imperative that visible, unified efforts by community members be launched to prevent drug abuse, and whereas Red Ribbon Week offers citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, and whereas Red Ribbon Week will be celebrated in communities across the nation on October 17th through 21st, which is the anniversary of Drug Enforcement Administration Special Agent Enrique Kiki Camarena, who in 1985 was brutally murdered by drug traffickers. Whereas businesses, government, law enforcement, media, healthcare providers, religious institutions, schools, and other community-based organizations will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing red ribbons and participating in drug prevention activities. And whereas the community of South Bend, Indiana further commits its resources to ensure the success of Red Ribbon Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the South Bend Community School Corporation Board of School Trustees, do hereby proclaim October 17th through 21st as Red Ribbon Week and encourage you to participate in drug prevention education activities, not only during Red Ribbon Week, but also throughout the year, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free lifestyle. Attested to this day, Monday, October 17th, 2022, Dr. C. Todd Cummings, Superintendent, John Anella, School Board President.
Thank you, Secretary Ball. And I do want to say thank you to Principal Valmond at Measle and all the students at Measle today who joined in the Red Ribbon Week press conference and kickoff. We're grateful for First District Councilman Kenneth Lee, the South Bend Civil Rights Heritage Center, and everyone who joined us today, Mr. Lynn Coleman, for kicking off Red Ribbon Week. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Javier Jimenez and Ms. Tracy Streeter to award our Team South Bend Award. Ms. Streeter and Mr. Jimenez, welcome.
Good afternoon, Dr. Cummins, Mr. Nail and School Board. It is with great pleasure that I'd like to introduce Ms. Tracy Streeter, Principal at Lincoln, and she has some very nice words about one of her staff members.
Thank you for your time. I'm going to read the letter that I received from the teacher that works with our specific para, Venetia Reyes. So my name is Kelly Carson, which obviously is our teacher. And I'm a life skills teacher at Lincoln Elementary. I'm writing this letter to tell you about my paraprofessional, Venetia Reyes. Ms. V, as she is known at Lincoln, has been with me for the past 2 years. She has always been a hard worker and a wonderful coworker. I could not ask for better. For the past 2 years, I have been one of the lucky teachers, having 2 paraprofessionals to help with the daily needs of my wonderful students. When I found out this year, it was only going to be Ms. V and I, plus I was going to have a larger class with even more intense needs. I would be lying if I didn't worry about how the year was going to go. Since day one, Ms. V has come in and gone over and beyond her job description. Not only is she helping the students to learn and grow, but she is happy to help with anything I need. Carrying boxes to and from my car, problem solving with me about situations that have arisen, and being not only a coworker that I can come to when I'm in need of help, but a friend. I could spend hours telling others how wonderful Miss V is, how I could not do my job effectively without her. I know there are many hardworking and dedicated paraprofessionals in the corporation, but I believe I have the best. Besides the occasional Starbucks or lunch, I am not in the position to help compensate Ms. V for all she does. Many of us who know Ms. V believe that she is worth way more than she gets. While she does not ask for recognition or thanks for what she does, I wanted you to be aware that this is a truly incredible person we have working for us. And I am here today because I wholeheartedly believe every word. Ms. V lives and breathes Team South Bend and the needs of our students. I want to introduce Venetia, and then this is Kelly, who wrote the wonderful letter. We would not be who we are without them. Thank you. Thank you
Terrific.
for allowing this.
Of course, terrific, Ms. Streeter. Thank you both and congratulations, Ms. V. We'd like to get a photo if you don't mind.
Sure.
If you all would come up.
Tears away. You deserve every. Cry.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. And before we move on to congratulating the Alumni Foundation of the John Adams Band, I want to make sure that we congratulate again. Last board meeting, EduStaff highlighted their substitute teacher of the year, Ms. Doris Reed. We did not get a photo. Ms. Reed, you're back. And so if you wouldn't mind having a photo with us, we want to say thank you again for all of your hard work and all the extraordinary things. I know today when I phoned you and you answered, I wasn't happy that you answered. You said, well, I'm subbing this afternoon, but we're so grateful for all of your effort and all you do for our students. So thank you very much. If you'll come on up. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, and I want to say congratulations first to the South Bend Alumni Foundation for an amazing Hall of Fame dinner. But congratulations to the Washington High School 2021-22 girls basketball team who were recognized at the Hall of Fame dinner. Also, congratulations to the Riley High School Orchestra who played and the Adams Show Choir. So congratulations to everyone who turned out to make it a really great evening. And so now I'd like to turn over to the amazing principal of Adams, Mr. Jim Seitz. Mr. Seitz.
That's a tough act to follow. I got people crying and all right. Thank you, Dr. Cummings, School Board. We are extremely excited to once again present our band. So band students, please come up. I have with us today Assistant Director, Miss Emily Pantelleria, and then also Senior Lawrence, who also helps out with the band. He retired a few years ago from teaching, but still comes around and helps out with the band. So we have, and I'll let Miss Pantelleria talk in a moment. We have about 20 members of these are our band leaders, right? Am I saying that right? Leaders and seniors. Okay. And so this, let's see, a week and a half ago, the band competed in the ISMA competition and qualified for state for the first time in 8 years. So hopefully we get to come back and celebrate that performance at the state. If you're not doing anything Friday afternoon, I think the weather's going to end up being a lot nicer. 3 o'clock at Schoolfield, 3:30 at Schoolfield. They'll be doing their final rehearsal for the state. So if you want to get a chance to come over and watch that, the whole public can come and watch them. So want to turn it over to Miss Pantelleria. And one thing before I do is, and I think I commented 2 weeks ago at the board meeting, but these students, not only do they have all their academic responsibilities, but they're at the Friday night football games, and then they get up at, what time do you guys get up? 6, something like that on Saturday mornings to go to competition? Okay, very early to go to the competitions and perform then all day on Saturday. And so it's really neat when you get to come to the football games and you see not only obviously the football team, but the parents and the cheerleaders and the band and everybody that makes the event so special. So we'd like to thank the band, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Pantelleria as well.
So I just want to start off by thanking all of you for all of your support, and us getting to state for the first time in 8 years is all thanks to the community and our boosters and all of the parents, and especially the hard work of our students. So we're very, very proud of them and very excited to go to state. This is the first time in 8 years and the second time since of Scholastic class existing that we've been able to go to state. So we are very, very excited. After last year of only missing state by half a point, we are so incredibly proud to achieve our goal of now going to state, and hopefully in the years to come, start winning things at state and bringing home those bigger trophies. We want to put South Bend back on the board for marching band. So we are very proud of them and very thankful for all of you. And I'm going to now pass it on to Mr. Lawrence here, who's been here for years.
Thank you very much to the board for allowing us to come in. And I just want to say that I'm very proud of the band. I've been working with them since 1989. And there have been multiple opportunities for us to achieve. This particular achievement is wonderful, and it not only reflects on Adams, but because we have students from all through the community who participate in the band, it reflects very well on the South Bend community. And we are very proud to go down and represent South Bend at the state competition. And as far as the future goes, I'm hoping that we can continue to do this. And just a reminder that we can always do a little more with a little more. Okay, thank you very much.
And I'm sure you want to hear from some students. So we're going to have our head drum major, Charlotte Thompson.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlotte Thompson. I've been in band for 4 years now, and I've been a drum major for 2. And this has honestly just been the most amazing senior year. Like, I could not have asked for better. We're so proud of our show. We could not have done it without the help of our wonderful directors and our staff, and of all of the leaders here. Our band is getting bigger, and we've needed all of their support. And also, of course, the support of our awesome band boosters who did all of our props and fed us on competition days, things like that. And thank you so much for having us here today and for your time. And we're so excited for our performance in Indy on Saturday.
We want to say congratulations again. We also want to say congratulations to the boosters and to your parents for choosing Adams, but we're all very proud of you. So let's take a picture. Don't be bashful. Come on up.
Hold on. Pack it in.
All right, are we ready?
All right, thanks.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. And just a reminder that we will be at Cops and Goblins on Monday, October 24 from 5 to 7:30 at Four Winds Field. And then the next board meeting will be Monday, November 7 at the Washington High School Auditorium. And that, President Nell, is the end of recognitions and superintendent announcements.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings. Appreciate it. Now that brings us to our academic focus this evening, and we have a budget overview. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Fowler and Mr. Flores. Budget overview.
Awesome. Good evening, President Anella, school board members, and Dr. Cummings. Thank you for allowing us to come back and present today. On our agenda, we have a brief overview of the major funds, state of the district, and significant assumptions, and we will be asking for approval tonight. On the first sheet, you'll see we showed this in our previous slides during the budget hearing, but essentially this is just an overview of the revenues that are coming in and what our anticipated fund balances are, and for each fund in 2023. The next slide is our major fund groups, and it's 5 years, including the revenues for 2023 for the proposed budget, and it kind of outlines where those funds actually come from. The next slide is a 5-year fund budget allocation snapshot, and it's every single fund and the revenues that came in every year and what we can expect for 2023. And that includes the education, operation, debt service, and referendum funds. The next slide is the current state of the corporation. And the main thing to note here is the amounts that we would bring in the operations, the revenue, the referendum fund. And then it also shows the property tax cap. And this year that's $16,565,410. And it shows our zone commitment in the operations and the referendum funds. The next slide is just the 2023 fund allocation. And this really shows where our funds essentially come from to support the corporation. And 59.5% of our funds come from the state out of the education fund. 23% is operations, and then 17.3% is the referendum. The education fund, this is an overview of how we're funded. Our actual student count, we use numbers from the previous year, half a year, and half of the upcoming year. And so this is the funding formula with the basic tuition support, complexity, what we get from careers, special education. And the next slide is just the education fund broken down by object. So we budget our entire revenues, and this is the breakdown of that. So we're paying for salaries, employee benefits, our zone transfer, purchase professional service, and then other objects, supplies, and purchase goods. And these are all allowable items through the IDOE. The next slide is just our educational spending overview. And it just highlights what we've done in this budget in the education fund. Increase teacher salaries. We have $11 million transfer to the empowerment zone. Our nurses contract was moved to the referendum, and a reduction, and we reduced some hardware and software and the IT department of $200,000. This is the assumptions of the operation fund. The operation fund is based off of the assessed values for St. Joseph County. And in that fund, we have a 15% increase for electricity, the transportation with contract drivers, and then inflation increase across the board. This is the 2023 operations fund by object summary. So these are the salaries in the operations fund: supplies, employee benefits, other purchase services, and purchase professional services, and purchase property services. And you can see the comparison from last year to this year. The operation spending overview, so the 15% increase in utilities, we've already felt that on our side. $1.5 million was reinstated for bus replacement. $800,000 increase for contracted bus drivers to ensure kids get to school on time. And then we cut some vacant positions and we saved on our copier contracts in order to make those balance. And these are just the budget assumptions for the operation fund, which included the nurses contract, the SSC contract, which was shifted to professional service, and we absorbed the circuit breaker loss of $16 million. Again, this is the referendum by operations fund and objects, and it just shows the breakdown from last year to this year. And you will see a shift in professional services in the operations fund, and that's for the SSC contract. So nothing has changed in that fund. We just shifted the line items from salaries to professional services. And that also includes in that 20 million, our contract with Synergistics and the nursing contract that went up 400,000. And this is just the spending overview for the referendum, which references the nurses contract, the SSC contract, and the increase in utilities. To debt service funds. Debt service funds, again, are based off of the assessed value. And that's how the levy is created in terms of what we can spend. And we look at the unreimbursed textbooks here and then our general obligation bonds. And so for 2022, we have $2.5 million that we will have to fund for debt service. And this is the same comparison for our debt service fund, comparing the 2022 and the 2023. And you can see the difference in the years. This debt service fund is a part of our 8-year financial plan. And that's how we plan to leverage our dollars to get capital projects completed. So those projects are not coming out of the operations fund. That is a part of our 8-year plan. So budget highlights and takeaway from this year's budget. So our positive assumptions. We know that we had an increase in the referendum due to assessed values. We also had a base tuition increase for special ed of $800,000, a base tuition increase for CTE of $200,000. We had a reduction in our insurance of 1.2%. And then also a base tuition increase overall, because we will receive the full effect of the biannual increase. Last year, when we got that increase from the state, only half of the year is projected. So half of the enrollment was at 5,800 per student, and then the other 6 months was at the full 63. So this year, we will have the full benefit of that increase from the state. That's a total of $7.4 million. So budget impact assumptions. And so this is where we take our positive assumptions minus the negative assumptions. So things that we had to account for that were new in the budget this year was $306,000 for class coverage. We had to take that up. The nurses contract went up 400,000, and it went up last year. It also went up again this year. The teacher raises, this was a part of the approved contract that we approved last year, 2.1 million. Then other employee groups, 2 million. And then our student loss was about roughly 2.4 million. Bus replacement was reinstated for 1.5 million. And then we had to account for the increase in utilities of 15%, that's 900,000. And then new contract drivers was $800,000 for a total of $10.4 million. And if you take the $10.4 million minus the 7.4, we had about $3 million we had to cut. This slide just really shows, I went through this slide at our last hearing, and just kind of spells out how, when we're doing the budget, we're ensuring that our spending is strategic and in alignment with our strategic plan and our goals. This is a building level equity slides, which show how much we're spending per student in each building and what that current enrollment is. And things to note, as far as the school level budgets, is that high school went up 1.6 million, middle schools went up 1.3 million from last year. And you see the same slide here for elementary. And elementary schools went up $723,000 from last year to this year. This is just a slide that we continue to talk about our investment that we've made with the referendum dollars. In addition to being physically responsible and working on our efficiencies, we have about 15.6 million that we have committed to through social emotional supports, early childhood, and then raises for our teachers and other employees and replacing equipment. And this is just a slide of how we're going to cover the ongoing efficiency, how we're going to cover the things that we need to cover through ongoing efficiencies and cost avoidance. And these were shown in the last slides. Main budget takeaways is the budget is sets the corporation up for financial sustainability in the face of funding challenges now into the future. The South Bend School proposed 2023 budget focuses on aligning with the corporation's strategic plan through baseline spending and driving efficiencies and to move the district forward. The South Bend School proposed 2023 budget focuses on strategic spending through the referendum for the district through consistent, sustainable investment, which can be repeated year after year to build a foundation for success for all SBCSC students and staff. This is our timeline that we presented. All budgets have to be adopted and approved by November 1st of each year, or you revert back to the previous budget. And this is information on Gateway. If you want to learn more, we also have a link here that you can link into and takes you right back to the previous budget that we showed during the last budget hearing. If you need more details and information, we also have a budget book that we create. Once the budget is certified, that budget book is about 95 pages. Once the budget is certified by the IDOE, we create that book, and that book is out there for anyone to see it, and it is all of our funds by program.
WETL South Bend.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Appreciate it. We know how much work this is and to get this over the finish line every year. So appreciate it. Any questions, comments from board members at this time? Yes, Ms. Ball, I see your hand going up.
Thank you, Chair Anella. And thank you, Ms. Fowler, for the presentation. I had a chance to look over the budget. And I had a couple of questions. One is that you indicated that our utility costs have gone up $900,000. And I wanted to get an indication as to when we signed the contract with Synergistics, I believe it's a multi-year contract, and part of that, the goal with that was to see some cost savings in utilities. So can you, if you have that information readily available, do you recall what were we supposed to save in cost savings with by transition using Synergistics?
I will say this, Synergistics, they talk about cost avoidance a lot more than cost savings. And we do have they have a tracker that we're able to go in and use, and see what the cost avoidance is, how much we would have been paying had they not been going in and taking these measurements, these efficiency savings measurements. But I think a lot of the cost that we're seeing today has something to do with the regulations that were passed last year, and everyone got an increase, even in your households, everyone saw kind of a big increase. But I think when you couple that with the regular inflation, I think that is probably the issue more than anything. But we are, to your point, meeting with Synergistics. Ramon is the point person for that, but we are meeting with Synergistics because it's time for us to review our contract. We're in constant communication with them anyway, Synergistics and SSC, to go over what the cost savings can be, what is happening out in the field, and what does that mean to our budget. So we have been having those ongoing conversations. So I'm hoping to come back and do a presentation really soon on Synergistics.
And I can say that I can't, what I think I recall from, if we're cost avoiding, was some of the costs like in regards to, I don't know if it's window efficiencies or roofing systems, or I don't know, pneumatic controls. What were some of the things they were supposed to?
It was pneumatic controls.
Those
It
are the biggest
was the controls. They go in a lot and control the temperature.
Mhm.
So through that contract, there was like a approval process where they were supposed to come up with like, what is the temperature and the heat supposed to be at every single building? And they would ensure that that happens and the lights go off at a certain time every day, and that, certain energy efficient mechanisms were put in place. When you walk in a room, light comes on. If no one's in there for a certain amount of time, it goes off. They were and they were also working with us to audit our bills from previous years. So yes, those are very good questions. So thank you for asking.
Okay, then I guess it's more of a couple of comments, and then I'll let others jump in here. Is that I just noted that our transportation with our contract drivers went up, they almost doubled. And I think that's something important to just kind of keep in check as we move forward with our enrollment numbers and number of students that we're serving, looking at a balancing between, it is important for students to get to school, but balancing that increased cost, it just went up so dramatically from last year to this, that it's just something to be mindful of. And then another point that I know I asked in previous years, or kind of question about our nursing contract. But perhaps when we are ready to put that out to bid, because I know it's an annual review, it's an annual contract, I believe, am I right? It's annual?
It's the contract that we are in now, I believe that one might be a 3-year, maybe. Cause we had not, last year when we did it, it hadn't been reviewed in a while. So it was like, we spent a lot of time on it. I believe it's 3 years, but I can go back and confirm that.
Yeah, I would just want us to, if we could re-examine what are the caveats of that. And I understand the cost of, it's an in-demand profession, and I understand the rising costs, but I also want to weigh how much benefit we get, how much coverage we get from the nursing staff and et cetera for that cost, because that cost keeps going up. So just something to think about when we reevaluate that contract. And then, my last comment about the budget overall is that I know that one of the priorities that the board had talked about was making sure that we can sustain student services, African-American services budget.
Mhm.
And I had asked you some questions about, demonstrating where that budget stands, how are they funded? I do recognize that some of their funding is at one point was grants, ESSER's, CARES, but I wanted to ask you if you could explain to us a little bit more about how we can embed that into operations or education costs once those grants have terminated.
Yes, those are the conversations that we are having in our cabinet and strategic meetings on the back end, mapping out what resources do we know we absolutely need in every single building, and how do we sustain those costs? And so kind of outlining what those positions are and how do we begin to get them back into the budget. But I will say for like the student services department, for example, their budgets have gone up over 100% every single year. They went from, I think, a budget of in 2020, was it 270,000 to, I don't know, 500,000 to 700,000 to 900 and some this year. So we are ensuring that those positions are in the student services department, but they do have quite a bit of positions that are grant funded, like your 21st Century Scholars. Some of those are like ongoing initiatives that we hope never go away. But yes, we are looking at all of our positions. That's a part of our 8-year plan too. What do we absolutely need, and how do we begin to get those back into the budget? And so as we're shoring up on efficiencies, as we notice shoring up on efficiencies and we notice savings, every time we do that, we're looking at what positions can go back into the general funds or the education fund.
Yeah, so I think just for me, I know what I'll be looking for next year is, and I sent a follow-up, is that if you could outline for us what grants and outside funding support student services, so that we can start looking at, as grants expire or as opportunities arise, maybe in new grants, to make sure that we have a strategy for sustaining that department.
Mhm.
And if grants wax and wane, come and go, there needs to be some amount of money budgeted in the education fund. I imagine is where it most likely would live, but it needs to be codified. It needs to be documented in the education fund at some point.
Yeah, agree.
And then my last question, I swear, my last one is in the budget presentation. There was an item, is under the education fund budget, and it's an item 15,000, and it's entitled enrichment. And yeah, and I wanted to know what was in enrichment. And we had chatted a little bit. I think you thought maybe it was sports and uniforms and such like that, but I wanted to know what was the amount of enrichment and what that includes?
Yes, that particular bucket was something that we were using for, it was actually, we researched, it was something for band. It was equipment. It
Oh, okay.
was band equipment is what it was.
And did you have
And
a?
I forgot to put that one on your
Yep.
list.
Did you have, was there a budget of, was there a budgeted amount for that? Let me see. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, that's, we had to track that one down. Yeah. I forgot. I don't know how that one didn't make your list.
Okay, so it's banned?
It was band equipment.
It was banned equipment?
banned
Okay,
equipment.
all right, we got somebody going down to Indianapolis, Maybe that's for next year, though. This is next year's budget, so, okay. Maybe we can send more folks to Indianapolis next year. Okay, that basically concludes, I think, my comments about the budget.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And some of those, I will tell you, Miss Stephanie, some of those categories are just categories that are given to us by the IDOE, and then they tell us what things can be paid for out of those particular categories. So sometimes they don't always align.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Ms.
thank you.
Paul. Just to clarify, I did check, the Beacon contract is 3 years. It was effective August 21 of 21, so it expires in 24. And then I just had a question on a follow up on Ms. Ball's comment about synergistics. Is we know the price of energy has gone up. It would be interesting to see what our overall energy usage is, obviously. Even if we use the same amount, the price is going to go up, but are we using less energy than before? Obviously, we'll have that conversation, I'm assuming, as this contract comes up for renewal next year.
Yep, those are great questions. I will tell you, one of the things I would mention out of all the, and maybe it was because I was expecting the utilities to go up because of utilities went up last year. NAT, was a federal regulation. But the one thing that has gone up on us quite a bit that I couldn't anticipate is the trash pickup. And so that's included in that as well. So that's what we're seeing really big significant increases in trash. And I don't know if it's because of maybe it's gas, I don't know, but we've been researching that, trying to figure out what's going on there.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Ms. McCullough.
Yes, I have a couple questions or comments here. First, I want to look at this page, I want to say 10, the 2023 Education Fund by Object Summary. And I would like to see in the future that broken down, the salaries broken down as to, because it's exactly how much is being paid, salary is being paid to whom. I need to see that broken down. Summaries just don't get it for me. And another thing, did I hear you say, I'm looking for the slide, SSC? Did I hear you say, did we take a loss?
I said SSC, I didn't say anything about a loss.
I'm
I
sorry, what
said-
did you say?
I said that their contract is added to professional services.
Okay, what else did you say? Because there's something else I heard you say about SSC.
Not sure.
So let me ask this question. How much have we saved? Is that some place in here that we can show how much we saved since we outsourced to SSC?
Well, we're 9-10 months in, so we don't have any savings right now from SSC. We're working through the plan that we agreed to, but we don't have any savings right now, but the plan is going as stated. So we're not paying more than what we budgeted.
So we outsourced our custodial staff to SSC, and we're 9 months in, we have no idea where we stand as far as how much money we've actually saved when we outsourced our custodians.
No, ma'am. We are actually on par with the plan. The plan is $18 million and we're on par with that. So we're not over, we're on par with the plan.
So we haven't saved anything, we haven't lost anything.
If we stay on par with if we stay on par with the plan, there will be some savings, but you won't know until the end of the year. But as of right now, we're on par and we are paying the $18 million. We're not over that. We know that the plan also, there's some other things in the plan that we haven't been able to do, like sell our equipment, and we need to move forward with that. We also know that in that plan, at the end of the year, they're giving us $500,000 for improvements of our choice for capital projects. So that's 500,000 that we don't have to spend out of our own funds. So there's a savings there, but we get that at the end of each year. So we really need to get to the end of the year and do a full assessment, and we can come back with that. But we are on par with what we agreed to.
Let me ask you this question too, because I'm looking at the amount of monies that we're paying into the empowerment zone. And it's 11 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is it any way you could have broken that down to say, tell us how that money is being spent, the $11 million is being spent?
That's the transfer to the zone, and that is the if it's the education fund, that's on their positions. That's their teachers in the empowerment zone. That pays for their teachers. And then in the operations fund, we have a shared services model. So even though we transfer a portion of those funds, so their transfer is maybe $12 million. I would say 10.5 or 11 million of those dollars stay with us because they've opted into most of our services. So then they would get the $1.5 million or whatever that's left.
Okay, so we're spending this kind of money for an empowerment zone. This just seems to me like we should have those schools back into our corporation. That's what it seems like to me. I think there was another question I wanted to ask. Someone else can go ahead and speak until I find it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Ms. Jones?
Hi, yeah, thank you for this report. Do have a couple of questions on the equity, inclusion, and justice definition that you have. And it begins by saying shifted funding from central office to building level to increase resources for the unique needs of individual school populations. So is that how we got, say, like, for instance, Rise Up per student, $13,413, and the building level equity meso $10,937?
Well, the building level equity, yes, we do look at every single population and their needs and what they need at those particular schools to ensure that they're getting it. And schools and populations that need more, we want to ultimately make sure that they are getting that if they actually need more, making sure that they're getting that. But there are a lot of other things that go into the formula as well, as far as the building space and then the enrollment at those individual schools, but also the resources in terms of the supports, the staff that's needed and those kind of things, but making sure that they are getting what they need.
Okay, thank you. And I'm asking that because the definition that we have now, and as you know, one of our colleagues had brought up the point that we will, with the last board meeting, he has suggested that at our next strategic operations meeting, that we again put another focus on equity and spending to provide greater transparency and creating interactive school and district profiles that help dissect our budgets to build understanding, financial maps, and human capital resources. Actually, this is information that some of us have been trying to get for the last 3 years. And as I see, it's on the agenda to be discussed again, which we discussed it already in the spring. So I'm just trying to see now, with what we don't know yet about equity, if what we find out in strategic operations, if that wouldn't serve as a better definition and something to go by than what we have here, because we don't know yet. We haven't dissected to figure out if indeed we are being equitable. At least that's what I'm seeing here. You know, we haven't figured that out yet. So I was just trying to understand how some schools like Rise Up, Edison, okay, they have, and good, if we're providing that, that's swell. But I just want to make sure that what we are reporting is indeed exactly what we're doing. And until we have this examination and dissecting, I don't know how we can clearly convey that we are being equitable.
That's fair. I agree. That's fair. We get a lot of questions on in the finance department, how are you accomplishing ensuring equity? Like, what are you looking at? What are your definitions? When you're preparing the budget, what are you thinking about? And these are just some of the things that we're thinking about when we're putting together the budget. It's not an indefinite statement saying that, hey, we know that, we've checked, every single box. These are just the things that we're thinking about as we're preparing the budget, the things that we need to look at year to year. And that changes from year to year, depends on the needs in the district. So,
Yeah. And
but yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And I agree.
and because we do know the budget is more than what we're seeing on the PowerPoint.
Mhm.
It's dependent on what information we get throughout the year on what we're actually doing. And just one other point I wanted to make, how reliable are our projections? I ask that because if in the event our projections turn out not to be accurate or what we projected, do we then come back and explain that this projection was not quite what we anticipated? Because it's very important that the board is giving, accurate information when we're deciding things like closing schools, what schools to close. So we have to make sure that our projections are as accurate as possible. And the reason why I question this is in 2020, I attended a community meeting during the campaign for the referendum. It was on a church. It was at a church on the southeast side. And actually, Mrs. Fowler, you were present. The superintendent was making a case for supporting the referendum, which I supported wholeheartedly. And during the course of his presentation, he made the remark that we only lost 15 students, by the way. Now, if you remember, when we were campaigning for the referendum, it was projected that February 2020, we would have lost between 200 to 250 students. But then as it turned out, according to what was presented that night at the community meeting, we actually only lost 15 students. And so for that reason, I have been very skeptical about projections. And I know corporations have to use projections. That's just a matter of how business is done. But then when it turns out, and to this day, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what the final report was on that. All I know is what we were given at that meeting that night, that after that second semester counting, instead of losing over 200 students, we actually only lost 15 students.
Can I explain that?
Sure.
What he was saying was we were only 15 off from the projected number. So if the demographers gave us 300 students, what he was saying is that the demographers were spot on. We were only 15 students off. We lost the 300, but maybe there was 300 in addition, 15 students in addition to that. So he was saying the projections have been pretty spot on. It was only 15 students off. So we did lose those students that year. He was talking about the projection versus our actuals. And I'm glad to, because I was there and I know exactly what you're talking about. So I'm glad to have that conversation with you again offline, just to go through it and explain it. Because when you talk about projections, we are very careful. We have financial advisors that we work with on several projections, Baker Tilly and some of the other ones, because they look at a lot of economic outlook in the community in St. Joseph County. They look at assessed values. They look at the TIF districts. They look at a lot of things that we are not the experts. So they look at a lot of things for us. But we also, there are a lot of parameters put in and systems put in to help us with that. Even with like the budgets, these are revenues that are given to us by, by the IDOE. These are the revenues, they set the rates, and we have to stay within certain boundaries. So since I've been here, and I can only speak to since I've been here, we do a lot to make sure that we have all the resources and we're checking and double checking all of our figures, all of our numbers, because we need to make sure that we're good stewards for one, but that the corporation can operate, and also that we are living up to what we said we were going to do out in the community in terms of getting these extra funds and asking individuals going out and asking the taxpayers, which we are so grateful for the referendum. So we are checking and double checking all of those things.
Thank you. And I
continual
appreciate that,
basis.
but I'm gonna stick with what I heard.
It's okay. It's
Yeah, I'm gonna
fine.
stick with
I understand. I
One,
get it.
one other question, and I think you and I have spoken about this in the past. The report, does that take into consideration the different departments? You remember the conversation we had where I had asked is if there a way that we can break down and see exactly what each department head is spending, who they're giving raises to, stipends to, bonuses to. Where's all this included in the budget? Where do we find all of that information?
Yes, so the information that you have, the information that you get, that was sent to you before the last meeting, it was about 100 pages. That is the back end information by programming, but then we have to go like 2 or 3 steps further than that and break everything down by department and by index. And so when we break it down, when we put the budget together, there's several different systems that we're using, and we're working through that. And so we treat it very similar to like the shared services model. Every single building has a cost center, but then every building has a cost center. But then within those cost centers are indexes. Those indexes are broken down by salaries. And every department, so the principals get a copy of their budgets. We call in every department head to go through the budget, and we go through the budget line item for line item. And that's how I'm able to make cuts. Like if we're not using professional development, we do a 5-year, the same 5-year that you guys see, we do a 5-year summary of each of their accounts. And that's how we look at their budgets to actuals. What was actually in your budget? What did you actually spend? And even in that, we have a projection that shows by the end of the year, this is what you should have in that account if your trends stay the same. We go through some of the budgets and they're in the red, and, we ask some questions about what's going on or what do we need to do if we need to, flip things around, move things. But all of those things are accounted for in each one of those, line items. I will say that a lot of the budgets are very, I'd love the opportunity to go through some of that back end information with you because they're very slim. I mean, we've been cutting them every single year because we've been adding a lot, we've been adding positions for supports and different things. So we've been cutting the budgets. A lot of the budgets don't have any fluff in them. So, but I'd love the opportunity to go through those individual budgets with you. And kind of so you can at least see what it looks like and what people have in their budgets, because they don't have a lot of autonomy to give out any stipends or raises and everything because there's not money in their accounts to do it. So I would love to have that opportunity.
And you gave the example of the principals. Is that the same way that we treat like the department heads?
Yes, they're first. We do theirs. So it's trickle down. We meet with Brandon and we know that, he's over curriculum. So we look at his whole curriculum, but we look at every assistant superintendent, and then every assistant superintendent has directors. So we either we meet with them individually, depending on who they are. Like, Julia stands on her own. So we meet with her, but then the assistant superintendents will also bring their teams with them. Like if they have physical officers in their department or secretaries that manage the extracurricular accounts, all of those people are in the loop. So we kind of sit and go over everything with everyone line item for line item, because usually the secretaries are the ones that are doing the purchasing in that. But they tell us everything, like, if they need a new desk, they're telling us during that budget hearing, and we go through every single line item.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I did find my.
Yes, Ms. McCullough.
Thank you. I did find the slide that I was referring to. Slide number 17, the budget assumption referendum operations fund. And when I said there was a loss with the SSC, I think it's 4 bullet points down. It says includes SSC contract for operational facility costs absorbed from 2020 circuit breaker loss, $18 million. So
Okay.
that's what I was referring to.
Oh, got it. Okay. So the reason that's in there is the circuit breaker loss. When in 2020, when we lost the, at that time, it was $12 million and it continued to go up. But when we lost that money at that time, that is where custodians in buildings and grounds were being paid. So when we got the referendum, that's why you notice in the referendum, it's the operating referendum, all of those salaries and positions were picked up in the referendum because that's where the loss was taking place. It was the tax-based dollars that came in that was supporting those departments. And so all this is saying is that the SSC contract replaced us paying for buildings and grounds. That's what this is saying, that that's why it's coming out of the referendum operating account, because that is where we were paying for the buildings, grounds, maintenance, and all of that, because that was the funding that we were losing. So when we got the referendum, that's what it replaced. And then everything that was left, we said, these are the things we're going to do, which included the teacher raises and all of the other things, which it would have been about 8 million left. And what we did at that time was we lowered the transfer from the operations fund so that those extra dollars would stay in the education fund for the teachers.
So I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So when we got the referendum fund,
Mhm.
I remember going to several of those meetings, and I don't remember ever hearing that we were going to pay. Are you saying we're paying SSC out of the referendum fund?
Yes, because that's where buildings and grounds was paid from, ma'am. We can't pay for buildings and grounds out of the education fund. So we have to pay it out of operations because that's the funding that we lost. We with the circuit breaker, when it came off, we lost operations. And what we were going to have to do is make significant cuts. But because of the referendum, we didn't have to do that. The referendum picked up that cost. So that's why you'll notice that the SSC contract comes out of the referendum.
Well, that's another reason why we should never outsource it. So let me go to page 26. Strategic spending, financial sustainability is what you have there. And you're saying when we have been right sizing our district, investing in our buildings, we are focused on financial sustainability. So I'm looking at this and I'm wondering how we can even say financial sustainability when we don't even know how much money we've saved from outsourcing. How do we know how much money we're gonna, how can we, and we keep right sizing when it comes to this table, comes to this board, it means closing the school and outsourcing the job. So if we keep closing schools, outsourcing, we don't even know how much money we saved from the first outsourcing, which was food service, or the substitute teachers. We don't know how much money we saved from that. Then we can't find out how much money we saved from outsourcing the custodial staff until the end of the year. So we don't know how much money we're saving. We just keep right sizing and outsourcing.
Well, like I said before, right sizing is about more than savings. A lot of it has to do with cost avoidance. It's about what you're not paying for. If you're not paying for buildings, if you're not paying for certain things, that means that you can use that money for something else. That's what that means. So it's not always a savings. It's just the things that you are not, it's cost avoidance, the things you aren't paying for that allows you to pay for other things. Like
I understand what that means. I understand that, but that's
get
not when you present it to us and when you come to the table. You said this cost savings, we don't need to pay for buildings, and you shut a building, or you outsource a building, or you outsource somebody's job, or you outsource departments. And you said it's because we want to save money. That's what you said to us when we come to this, you come to this table. You tell us you outsourcing something or closing a building. I'm just simply saying that to say this. We don't know how much money we've saved when we've outsourced 3 departments already, and we've closed 2 buildings since I've been on this board. We have no idea how much money we've
We
saved.
present the savings to you every time we come. We say what
You have
the
not
cost
told me how much
avoidance
money we've
and
saved.
what
when
the
when
savings
you
are. Go
Closed
back to the
Hay
video.
or you
Shut it
closed Tarkington. I'm speaking, please. You have not told us how much money we've saved when you closed Tarkington and when you closed Hay. You can't tell us how much money we saved when we outsource the teachers, the substitute teachers, we outsource the food service, or we outsource the custodial staff. So if you said that, I have not received that information and I would like to see it, please.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, Ms. Wesley.
Yes, Mrs. Fowler, I'd just like to say a special thank you to you and your staff and your department. I've been on the board. I think been on the longest time, second veteran on the board with the most experience on the board. So I would say special thank you to, I know this is, it's a lot of work. And I know over the years, being connected, we're looking at, reading the budgets and going to budget trainings from a national level, that it's not an easy task. So I'd like to say thank you to the both of you here and to your staff and to you, Mrs. Fowler. A lot of decisions that were made, and I'm going to say this, were made before you even started your position. And I'm sorry that you have to take a lot of the hits because there were decisions that were made by previous board members and previous superintendents. Change is hard for people. They have a hard time. I'm glad that looking at SSC, for the record, part of the decision-making for outsourcing the custodian staff was management, because I asked the question. I asked that question to the managers that were sitting at the table where you two are sitting. And I asked, is it a management issue? And they told me they could not handle it. So my decision based on outsourcing the custodian staff was based on management. I know numbers on a business. It takes time to see the deficiencies in any type of budget. So I wanted, for the record, for everyone that's listening, the part of the decision-making of outsourcing the custodian staff was not based on saving money. It was based on the fact that capacity could not be built. And management at that time said that they needed help. And we didn't have the capacity to manage as a district. When it comes to food service, same thing. We cannot even look at the food service budget because that's mandated by the USDA. That's a cost neutral. There's no making money with the food service. So I wanted to make sure that those two items were addressed and also to say thank you. You're trying to balance a budget that individuals years ago, and I'm going to say 15, 20 years, we're paying for it now, and the kids are paying. And I was glad I was out of town because I was able to see in a whole different state, many 1,000-something miles away, that they're having the same challenges: low enrollment, teacher shortage. So I know what you said, and I support you. And so continue to do what you've been doing, serving children, not adults. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wesley. And I just want to add, Ms. Fowler, Ms. Flores, you know, this is challenging, especially as we know, as in many urban school districts, we're declining enrollment. You know, we're actually in a good financial spot right now because of the referendum. Obviously, we've got a lot of CARES money, which we know also disappears. So, you know, you have to keep the eye on the ball here, and we appreciate all your work and thank you for the presentation this evening. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our academic focus this evening. So then it brings us to hearing of visitors on action agenda items. Do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, sir. May I approach?
Yes. At regular meetings, the public is invited to address the board for 3 minutes regarding action agenda items. Visitors wishing to address the board on action agenda items that will be voted on must sign the registration sheet prior to the meeting and state the action agenda item which they will address. Individuals may only speak once during this section of the agenda. Speakers shall properly identify themselves after they approach the podium by stating their name and address for the record. Personnel issues are not to be addressed during open sessions of the school board. The board president may interrupt, warn, or terminate a person's statement if the statement becomes personally directed, abusive, or obscene. Ms. Owens, you can keep the 3-minute timer, please. For 9.01, approval to adopt the 2023 budget, Paul Anastas.
My name is Paul Anastas. I live at 51680 Orange Road, South Bend, Indiana. And I am going to talk about the approval to adopt the 2023 budget because, as I stated before, this should be public hearing separate from the board meeting. This should not be part of our board meeting. And secondly, I have no idea where she just got that budget because I was on that website and it wasn't there earlier today. So I have no clue where that came from. But when I go to research it, I can't find it. There's no PDF attached to this where you can find it. You guys really need to have take better care of doing this because I can't find the budget to see what the heck you guys are even passing.
Thank you. For 9.02, approval to adopt the 2023 Capital Projects Fund, Paul Anastas.
Paul Anastas, 51680 Orange Road. I'm talking about the approval for the adoption of the capital project. I don't know if anybody ever paid any attention, but for the last 10 months, you guys haven't spent any money on capital projects. If you go in to the bills that were paid, there is absolutely no money that was paid out to capital projects at all. So I don't know where you're going to approve a budget for it when you didn't even spend any money this year on it at all. And this whole thing, again, should have been part of a separate hearing and not part of our board member here, or the board meetings that we're having right now.
Thank you. You can stay there. You're the only one signed up for approval to adopt the 2023 to 27 school bus replacement plan.
Here again, same thing, Paul Anastas, 51680 Orange Road. And with that being said, again, is this should be separate from the board meeting. And where is the budget for the buses? I didn't see that either. I'm going through all this information and I can't find it. Can't find it on the website, can't find it on anything. I go to board docs, I go to the school corp website. Where is that information that you're supposed to have for the public to look at?
Thank you. And then finally, you're signed up as well. Approval 9.04, approval of transfer of funds from education fund to operations funds, Paul Anastas.
Okay, Paul Anastas, 51680 Orange Road. So talking about the approval of the transfer of the funds, you're going to do it again. You're going to move another $5 million from the education fund to the operating fund. Wouldn't it be a good idea if you let everybody know line item exactly what you're spending that in? You bring it into operation and it's like it gets absorbed into a black hole. Nobody even knows what it's being spent on. Why don't we do a line item that shows when that money gets transferred over, what it is being used for in the operating budget?
Thank you. Okay, I see no one else signed up for action agenda items, so that will move us to hearing of visitors on other items. At regular meetings, the public is invited to address the board for 3 minutes regarding items not posted on the agenda. Individuals may only speak once during this section of the agenda. Speakers shall properly identify themselves after they approach the podium by stating their name and address for the record. Personnel decisions are not to be addressed during open sessions of the school board. The board president may interrupt, warn, or terminate a person's statement if the statement becomes personally directed, abusive, or obscene. Does anyone wish to speak at this time?
Hey everyone, Spencer French, 610 California Avenue, 46616, proud neighbor in the near northwest neighborhood. I have first an anecdote and then a quick comment. The anecdote is this Wednesday, I was at a date at a bar in town. And while I was at that date, I saw President Anella and Dr. Cummings and, said hello, whatever, we sat down. And they were having a good conversation, whatever. And when they left, I was waiting for the bill to, pay for the bill for the drinks and look all cool and, impress my date. And my tab had been covered. And so on one hand, I wanted to say thank you. On the other hand, I want to say, guys, come on. I was trying my best out there and, didn't really work out. In that same spirit of cordiality, I wanted to talk about the SRO contract. Throughout the multiple meetings with this board, myself and many other concerned members of the community have brought forth major concerns with the SRO contract and have also brought forth potential options of moving forward, including the implementation of restorative justice trained aides in all of our schools to replace the police. I'm not even here to talk about those programs. I'm here to talk about the review board that happened. There was supposed to be a review board at the 1-year mark of the SRO contract, which I believe, if I read it correctly, and I read about 15 times, that date would be in July. And so my question is, what were the findings of that review board and also who was on it? Because that, for my information, has not yet been made public. And so there's that. And the one last very small logistical question is, I know you don't typically respond to these right away, so everyone in the community could get time to respond. And that typically comes at the end of the session. Am I correct in that? All right, in that regard, the date went really well and I have another one tonight, so I'm gonna have to run out. And so I'll be looking at the YouTube later for the responses and I'll be following up via email. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Paul Anastas, 51680 Orange Road. I'm again using my First Amendment right, and nothing I say should be held against my family or I. Hopefully, all of you had a chance to review the report that was sent to you regarding a case study. It has now been a little over 10 months since the custodial, grounds, and maintenance staff have been outsourced. And in that time, what has happened since the first of the year? We've been fully staffed. Have we been fully staffed as promised? Have we gotten all that were promised in the contract between South Bend School and SSC? As far as expecting daily, weekly, and monthly cleaning and the curb appeal at the buildings and the maintenance and upkeep of those buildings with the proper skilled and unskilled labor, we should be very mindful of what has been promised and what has truly been delivered. And it was previously stated that we were going to save money on doing that. And did we truly save any? So now, what have we gotten in the time span from them for the $18,300,000? As our school board, you should be the watchdogs over this and make sure what is agreed upon by contract is what is being delivered, and not just taking the word of an administrator and taking credit for orders for jobs that were started in 2021. That is wrong also. Now, before outsourcing, we were minimally staffed, all used incident IQs, so the whole corporation was integrated, not separated. Our time was kept with few mistakes. Payroll and benefits were also run with few mistakes. And if they were taken care of in a timely manner. We had around 40 vendors. We used outside contractors when the need would arise. We would get dispensers, parts, and supplies as needed. We also did the normal day-to-day cleaning and as much curb appeal as time would allow. The repairs of the corporation and physical plant kept your building open during inclement weather and also helped you through pandemic with the distribution of the food. So again, we are asking the question, what have we gotten for what we're spending? And then some in the community have asked if there's a copy of the superintendent review that's available. And you said that it's not because it's an employee document. So I'm wondering if we're going to continue with agenda-driven administrators, or should we cut our losses now and start looking for the proper skill set to bring the corporation back for the children and the community? And with doing this, we hope to have a board with the experience and strength to accomplish just that.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Peter Brodovich, 20452 Roosevelt Road, 46614. I, along with Paul Onassis, am also invoking my First Amendment right. In 2021, South Bend School Administration inquired with an RFP for outsourcing the physical plant, including custodial, grounds, maintenance, and service building positions. On January 1st, 2022, South Bend School Superintendent, CFO, and selected board members voted in Compass Group's SSC to oversee these daily operations, stating that South Bend Schools cannot handle the burden of workload for their 32 active buildings, 3 closed buildings, and 3 athletic fields. In a series of 3 meetings between the physical plant, Todd Cummings, Karima Fowler, the physical plant was informed this new adventurous company would bring employee growth within the company, exceptional benefits to employees, and a family-oriented environment within SSC. However, those facts have shown proof that this is quite the opposite, a discussion for another time. Now for the facts that South Bend Schools top administrators and selected board members did not do their due diligence and homework aspect of choosing Compass Group to operate the physical plant of the 5th largest school district in Indiana. In 2000, ESS, U.S. Support Service of Compass Group, won the contract to supply UN peacekeeper missions food and water in multiple countries valued at 237 million euros. In 2005, the UN suspended Compass Group due to contract bidding, and by October 2006, Compass Group settled in 2 lawsuits and paid north of 40 million euros in a confidential settlement. U.S. Dining Services of Compass Group informed Halton Regional Health Department for food service supplies testing positive for Listeria in November 2008. Compass Group settled an $18 million lawsuit with New York City schools for overcharging school meals in 2016. In 2013, Compass Group acknowledged they served horse meat in Ireland and Northern Ireland schools. In 2016, Southern District Health Board received complaints about food being served in Dunedin Hospital in New Zealand, a 15-year controversial contract. In 2019, Chartwells hired unfree labor through Chinocor within Louisiana State University drug rehab centers, which in turn opened federal and state investigations. In January 2021, Chartwells was criticized for small and poor quality lunch meals to students. The Compass Group issued an apology. With these facts being told in front of the school board, I ask one simple question. That is, with this administration's resume building agenda, was it worth outsourcing your community folks in blue who have contributed so much of themselves to South Bend schools as children to a company was proven it is only in for a scandalous profit?
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Devon Winder. I'm the resident regional manager for Custodio. In the short time that I've been here, here are some notable facts about what we've done here at South Bend. As we sit right now, our custodial department is at 95% staffed. We're 5% off for being fully staffed in that department. We've also partnered local initiatives with the community. Our engineers, our day engineers and our night engineers are going through various trainings on inspections, keeping the buildings up and learning how to communicate. We've also adopted many other initiatives to help them, like the gym program and acknowledging our custodials once a month. Many of our associates have mentioned to me personally that they are happy with the things and the changes that have come to the schools. I've heard from numerous principals that their schools are cleaner than they have been in 5 years. So if we are going to talk about facts, we can look at those statistics. We can look at our surveys that are sent out every single month to the principals for reviews. Last but not least, we are having an employee appreciation day for our custodians, October the 19th. We hope that you guys can come and join us. If the weather does not permit for us to be outside, our principal over at Jefferson has allowed us to use the gym. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Good evening. Just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Kurt Trufke. I'm the new resident regional manager with SSC. Just 2 weeks in here, so I'll be working closely with Steve Miskin to service the account. Look forward to working with you and serving South Bend Community Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Good evening. My name is Tim Kurtz. I live at 2615 Turnberry. I do work for SSC. I'm the construction project manager. I'm also the one that brings you the capital projects change orders and bid tabulations. I just wanted to say, when I do a project at the South Bend Community Schools, I have 3 goals in mind. I want to have a fantastic user experience for the teachers and students once the project is completed. My second goal is to always have quality and safety. We want the very best for our projects. And then lastly, I want to eliminate every atom of waste when we do a project, so it's totally efficient and will last for generations to come. I did want to say, I do not go to the school until the school board approves a project. And then once we have a signed PO, a contract, and we work with the contractor to make sure that we have labor, men and machines, and also material, and we get a valid schedule. Then for the first time, I reach out to the principal or the school leadership or the athletic department or the athletic director to talk to them about the project and to get the go-ahead. My experience with the South Bend Community School, 100% of the time, the school has or the athletic department's been phenomenal. Working with us is pretty much whatever we need to do. We will work with you. We want to do the project the best we can. And that has allowed all of the projects that I participated in to be done on schedule or a little bit ahead of schedule. So again, working with the school leadership, the principals has been a phenomenal experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Good evening, everyone. How you doing today? Thank you for allowing my time today. I am very proud of my team. It's not easy coming up to this podium, so I do appreciate them coming through and giving you some kind words. Employee event on Wednesday. It's going to happen.
Name and address, please.
Name is Kenneth Gray. I'm the resident regional director of SSC. I do apologize, of our buildings and grounds. As I was saying, Wednesday, we have our employee appreciation meeting that we're going to have. I actually got the actual date of the football tickets we're giving away for Notre Dame. So it'll be Notre Dame versus Boston College. I have 2 separate giveaways for that, and we'll be giving away some South Bend Cup tickets as well. As Devon stated, if the weather does not hold up, as of right now, it's going to be pretty chilly. We are going to be moving our events to the gymnasium. So I do welcome all of you there at the same time. And I want to leave you with this. We do look forward to presenting to our building assessment to the board and explaining the value of our preventive maintenance programs and working within your current budget to address significant deferred maintenance backlog that the district has and many public institutions has placed and going through right now. So hopefully in November, we'll get to get on the agenda and fully explain our presentation that we've presented to Karima and her team. All right, have a good day.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time? Okay, seeing no one approach the podium, we will move on to our consent agenda this evening. 8.01 through 8.07 as recommended, the Board of School Trustees approve the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes under item 8.01, which there are none this evening, accepting any attached financial reports and statements under item 8.02, which there are none this evening, approving any attached consolidated registers of claims and distributions of payroll for payment under item 8.03, approving personnel decisions listed on any attached reports under item 8.04, adopting any attached resolutions under item 8.05, which are required to be adopted annually, which there are none this evening, accepting any gifts to the corporation and approving any fundraisers described in any attached reports under item 8.06. And finally, approving any or ratifying any contracts for $50,000 or less listed under item 8.07, which there are none this evening. Do we have a motion to approve?
Question.
Hold on. I got a motion from Dr. Green
Second.
and a second from Miss Wesley. Yes, Miss McCullough.
Can you please pull 804?
Yes, so we're gonna pull 8.04 out. Okay, so we're voting on 8.01, 8.02, 8.03, 8.05, 8.06, and 8.07. Okay, Ms. Owens, would you do the roll, please?
Ms. Ball. I'm sorry, I forgot she left. I apologize. Dr. Green.
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McCullough,
Nay.
Dr. Warren,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Anella.
Aye. Okay, the consent agenda has been approved. We pulled it.
South Bend.
So do we have a motion to approve the personnel report?
So move.
Moved by Dr. Green, seconded by Ms. Wesley. Any discussion on the personnel report? Okay, seeing none, roll please.
Dr. Green.
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McCullough,
Aye.
Dr. Warren,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Anella.
Aye. Okay, the personnel report's been approved. Now we are on to our action items this evening. 9.01 it is recommended that the Board of School Trustees adopt the 2023 budget as advertised. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Dr. Green, seconded by Ms. Wesley. Any final discussion on the 2023 budget? Okay, seeing none, roll please, Ms. Owens.
Dr. Green,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
I'm going to abstain. Hopefully by next year, we can revamp that definition for the equity, inclusion, and justice. Thank you.
Ms. McCullough,
Nay.
Dr. Warren,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Anella.
Aye. Okay, we've approved the budget. That's on the 9.02. It is recommended the Board of School Trustees adopt the 2023 to 2025 capital projects funds plan as advertised. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Moved by Ms. Wesley, seconded by Dr. Green. Any discussion on the capital projects fund? Seeing none, roll please, Ms. Owens.
Dr. Green,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McCullough,
Nay.
Dr. Warren,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Anella.
Aye. Okay, 9.02 has been approved. 9.03 is recommended the Board of School Trustees adopt the 2023 to 2027 school bus replacement plan as advertised. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Dr. Green, seconded by Ms. Wesley. Any discussion on the school bus replacement plan? Okay, seeing none, roll please, Ms. Owens.
Dr. Green,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McCullough,
Yay.
Dr. Warren,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Anella.
Aye. Okay, 9.03 has been approved. 9.04, it is recommended the Board of School Trustees approve a resolution to transfer amounts from Education Fund to Operations Fund. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Moved by Ms. Wesley, seconded by Dr. Green. Ms. Fowler, I will ask you to give us a little info on this annual fund transfer.
Sure. This is a annual fund transfer that we do every single year. It's $11,055,447. It's about 9% that we're transferring, and we went from 15% to 9%. Last year it was 9%. So we left the transfer the same in the education fund.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, roll please, Ms. Owens.
Dr. Green,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McCullough,
Nay.
Dr. Warren,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Anella.
Aye. 9.04 has been approved. 9.05. It's recommended the Board of School Trustees approve the Common School Fund loan in the amount of $1,465,192. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Dr. Green, seconded by Ms. Wesley. I see Mr. Stalvey at the podium, so tell us about the Common School Fund loan.
Good evening. So this is a loan we take every year from the IDOE. it funds the majority of our one-to-one program within the district. So it'll provide the computers that we provide all the students along with replacements and repairs. It's the same almost every year. We get $100 per student that is funded on our ADM K through 12. So we just put that right back in and go through the same process every year.
Wouldn't everybody want a 1% loan right now?
Right? 1% loan would be awesome.
Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, roll please, Ms. Owens.
Dr. Green,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McCullough,
Nay.
Dr. Warren,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Nella.
Aye. Okay, 9.05 has been approved. 9.06 it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the job description for communications coordinator. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Ms. Wesley, seconded by Dr. Green.
And I'm seeing our Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Ms. Rita Stevens. If you'll come to the podium and give us just a few words about the communications coordinator.
Thank you, Dr. Cummings. Good evening, School Board of Trustees. The communication specialist position would be the addition to the 2-member team right now that would help in coordinating all of the events. Our communications department is a little different because we provide important events planning and customer service to all of our schools and departments. And that makes it necessary for them to have someone that can kind of coordinate those things. We have the director is basically the strategist who also writes and makes sure that that she stays in tune with the media and managing the media. Also Monica's position, forgive me, Monica, for not knowing the exact position. She's also very important in writing and managing media moment to moment. So it is the proactive part in coordinating school events, making sure that you're in contact with all of our target markets, which primarily parents, our students, our internal staff, things like that. And so it was a 4-member team. It's reduced right now to 3 members, but all 3 of those members, including this communication specialist, is very much needed if we're going to continue to coordinate programs and then make the necessary contact with the media and create our own media through the social media networks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, roll please, Ms. Owens.
Dr. Green,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McCullough,
Aye.
Dr. Warren,
Aye.
Ms. Wesley,
Aye.
Mr. Nella.
Aye. Okay, 9.06 has been approved. That brings us to the end of our action items. We have no items from closed session this evening. So then that brings us to board communications. The board has an opportunity to speak at this time. Does anybody wish to speak at this time? Yes, Ms. Wesley.
Yes, I'd like to speak. I'd like to say I missed being in person at the last board meeting, and I wanted to say to all my students, families, and staff, Dr. Cummings, your administrative staff, cabinet, including the zone, Dr. Lewis. No, I'm very proud we've gotten through this first quarter, and students are seem to be very excited. I've had some time to come into some of the buildings and talk with students and visit with staff. So it's been in principal. So it's been very interesting. So I always just would like to say thank you for all of your efforts. I know that, with everything going on, and I know we're kind of moving past COVID a little bit, but our students still need that extra support. Our families still need support, and our staff still need support. So, but with that all being said, I'd just like to say again, Dr. Cummings, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Wesley. Anyone else wish to speak at this time?
I'd just like to make a quick comment.
Yes, Ms. McCullough.
Yes, I'd like to say to our teachers, our custodial staff, our paras, secretaries, bus drivers. They are our frontliners and runners, and they are very much appreciated. And they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And we appreciate you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just have a couple housekeeping details. Let's see, the Performance Monitoring Committee has a meeting here Wednesday, October 19th from 11 to 12. The Strategic and Operation Committee has a meeting here on Thursday at 1 p.m., October 20th. And then next week on Tuesday, October 25th, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., the board will have a public board policy work session here on the 25th. And that's all I've got. So that brings us to the end of our agenda and all of our items. So everyone go home and enjoy the rainy evening and a rainy day tomorrow, but hopefully the sun will come out soon. So have a great evening.